What do you think it would take in Congress to see accountability for James Clapper lying?
Oh, God.
Well, you know, it's a, you know, it is illegal to lie to Congress, but everybody lies to Congress. And, you know, I mean, as soon as they raise their right hand, look out. So Clapper should be held responsible, but he won't be, because that's the condition we're in right now. You know, in a just world, Snowden, you know, we'd be having ticker tape parades for him, but that's not what's going to happen. And so we have to go back to political solutions. This has to be politicized. It has to be politicized at a district level, in congressional races, Senate races, on a state level, and nationally. Unless that's the only way that we're going to put the pressure on Congress to repeal Section 215 of the Patriot Act, which, you know, set up this, which helped to enact a broader surveillance, and frankly, to take the Patriot Act down. In my opinion, you know, if there's any reporters here, you know, we have the CIA, we have the FBI, we have dozens of, you know, a dozen other intelligence structures. Frankly, I think it's time to, you know, and I'm saying this with a lifetime experience in government, I think it's time to punch the NSA's ticket here. They've ruined the brand. They've destroyed the idea of privacy, and we need some kind of symbolic and actually profound approach here that says, look, you violated something that's very dear to the American people. You don't get to do that. You know, we talk about a death penalty for individuals, which I oppose, but I think that there needs to be, for government agencies that so broadly betray the public interest, there needs to be a measure of responsibility, and if they go beyond the pale, which the NSA has, they just ought to be abolished. That's, I mean, and I say this, you know, we don't need the spying.
All right, we're going to take a couple questions. I'm going to try to take them, depending on how many hands we have, maybe a couple at a time, and let the panel respond to 2 or 3, if that's okay, so we can get as many in as possible. I do want to urge you to ask questions, of course, and if you can't resist making a statement, please just keep it short. Thanks. We'll start right up here in the front.
My name is Stan Boyd, and I had no idea that so much data has been collected and coordinated, brought together, and it creates, to me, an extremely dangerous situation for our whole world, really. 2 things that really struck me, or I thought about as I thought about the film. One is that I worked with the Obama, the election of Obama closely, and I was amazed at how they would call every single registered voter in Virginia and find out what their position was. And they're still doing that now on issues. And I'm assuming now that all that data that they're collecting would be accessible to someone like Senator DeMint or someone, you know, in a very Tea Party type person, that they should become in charge of the government. And they would then know exactly who everybody is, you know, for which side and views. So I would like to get your reaction. Is something like that something that really seems possible, that could be happening, and what can we do about that? And the second thing is that I know the state of Maryland, and I think some other states, elections boards are considering going to internet voting. And if you went to internet voting, then I guess every single person who voted, they could find out how everybody voted. And that, to me, would be extremely dangerous, and I would hope that people would contact the governor against going towards internet voting.
Right.
All right, and then can I just take a couple, just so we,
yeah,
otherwise I'm afraid.
Sure, yeah. Let's do that.
There was somebody here in the middle. Yes. Can you stand? The mic's not going to work, so speak up.
My name is Li Yang. Thanks for this film. But I want to take a look at these pictures in sort of different angles. For instance, we want a privacy, and they use all this technology. And actually, this type of things is not just come from the email or the high tech. It's before that. All these conspiracies, all those abuse and misconduct is already happened. So I just wonder if if they can use this privacy technology to do that, obviously they can use it to detect abuse and waste and all of official misconduct. So do you have any information how much they can do this or how much they try to ignore their duties?
Okay, great. Why don't we take those two for the panel?
So to the gentleman's first question and concerns, I don't actually recall the name of the organization that was behind the campaign, but I think it was Organizing for America or something to that extent.
Right.
So there is a large conversation that's brewing right now about what to do about all this data collected around campaigns, mostly presidential campaigns because they're the wealthiest. For the Democratic side, they'll say, you know, this is actually really important to collect all of this information. And most of it is around campaign donations, right? It's not always tied as to, you know, what you're voting about and things like that. They want to know who's going to raise money for them or who's going to give them money.
It's whether they're going to vote for the president or not.
So the thing that's, I think, that the Democrats will say is, well, we need to collect this information partly because it helps us register voters, and for the Democratic Party, if you register voters, that's the biggest hurdle, right? They will vote Democrat, and so that's their argument. The Republican Party, I think, does a less good job in terms of collecting that information and processing it and using it to amplify their campaigns. Where this is headed, I think, is really something of great concern because we don't actually know how this information will be shared with other parties in the extent. Now, electoral campaign law, I think, can put some parameters on that, but there's a lot of gray area that we ought to be concerned with. And I think, you know, if there are individuals that have been working on campaigns, especially the Obama campaign, which is known for its innovativeness, I think it's worth starting a national conversation about that, especially as we think about online voting or electronic voting. To the woman's question, I don't exactly know how to answer your question, but I will say, more broadly, I think that the type of monitoring that needs to go on of our potentially corrupt lawmakers is actually non-digital, kind of like shoe leather monitoring, right? So a lot of, and we saw it in the film, that the comedian that was arrested and the explanation that was given, oh, somebody walked into the station, you know, this person-to-person contact that is then becomes really important as more and more things get digitized.
But that's not what actually happened.
Well, of course it's not what happened, but I think that it's worth pointing out that that can be an excuse and that can be a mechanism by which, of course that's not what happened, but that can be a mechanism by which lawmakers or people in positions of power actually kind of bend what it is that they're trying to obscure what it is that they're doing, that they actually resort to, you know, person-to-person contact.
And the hardest part is when surveillance is at its best, it goes completely unnoticed, and it can easily sneak by and information can be passed on to someone else, and then that information can be used against you. And that's the hardest part about these systems, is knowing when the surveillance that may be occurring is actually occurring.
There was a report last week by the AP describing the guidelines to domestic law enforcement of how to create alternative explanation for when they receive information from. So under 702, the kind of prison data collection program, whereby you can get data from Google and Facebook and these companies, you're supposed to